Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Londonderry Town Council meeting. Tonight's meeting is April 24th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tonight's moment of celebration, appreciation, or moment of silence, whichever you would prefer to call it, is for the great people of Londonderry who are all off on vacation this week. Wishing them safe travels and a safe return home. Thank you. Did you guys have something for me?
Yes.
Oh, no, I haven't done, sorry. I have not. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we move to public comment, I've been asked to share some information with the community. Many folks may not know that we actually do assessments based on April 1st of the current year. So current year assessments were just done for 2023. So the assessment was for last year for 2021. There was an article recently in the local newspaper which talked about the Woodmont property and how much they actually pay in taxes to the community. The number that was given was only the number that was given for the town. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have school government, we have town government, we have county government, and we have state education government. When people are doing a presentation or anything, they need to understand that in the event that this Woodmont was paying taxes, they pay $317,000 to the town. They pay $897,000 to the schools. And then on top of that, they also pay taxes to the county at 0.80 cents per thousand, and to the state at $1.65 per thousand. So the article that was here didn't really completely explain all of the revenue that Woodmont has generated thus far. It only talked about one piece of it. There was a lot of talk on social media with regards to whether or not they were getting tax credits and that this is why they were not paying as much in taxes. They do not get any tax credits. There are no tax credits afforded by the town or by the state. So in total, they pay in excess of $1.4 million in total taxes to all of the different government entities. So when looking at information locally, always make sure that you ask the next question, so you find out the total revenue number that's being brought in. We make that mistake all the time, that we don't continue to understand that we have many different forms of government when it comes to that. So with that correction, we'll open things for public comment. Was there anything else to add to that?
No, you summarized it perfectly, Mr. Chairman. The only other thing I would note is in terms of payments into the town government that were not mentioned, $41,000 in motor vehicle for the last assessment period that was discussed in that meeting. $41,000 in motor vehicle revenue coming out of the Woodmont PUD.
Fantastic. Thank you. And with that, I'll open public comment.
Okay.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive, and I'd just like to ask one thing here. There's a lot here on the agenda, and we have public comment here now, but if something's brought up that are on the agenda, can the public speak?
We have public hearings. We have a number of them this evening. We have 3, actually. We'll only be taking comment during public hearings and public comment.
So you will not be taking any comment on anything that's brought up on the agenda later on? Is that correct?
There's no scheduled comments for anything after the 3rd public hearing.
Okay. So I would like to comment about this unanticipated revenue. That would be Resolution 2023-09, in the amount of $4 million that we're looking at here for the town to accept this large amount of money.
Mr. Breslin, if I could interrupt you?
Certainly.
Resolution 2023-09 is under public hearings.
Okay, so
So that's part of, public hearings, you get to make comment.
that's what I'm doing, am I not?
Well, do you want to do it now during public comment, or do you want to wait and do it during
Well,
the public
that's,
hearing?
that's what I asked you earlier.
Well, Mr. Breslin, I just said that we have public hearings. That's one of the 3 public hearings.
Well-
I said anything after new business, we would not be accepting any other comments.
Okay, so you
But
said I
you're
could,
welcome to comment now if you like, or you
Okay.
can wait till later. It's your
no,
choice.
I'll continue now.
Okay?
Okay, so this is a huge amount of money, and I'm speaking as a private citizen here. And this kind of come up, and it looks like you're looking to vote on this evening to either accept this or not. Am I correct in that regard?
Right, there'll be a full presentation. We're going to listen to what they say, and then we will probably call for a vote.
Oh, okay, well, I mean, I think
I
we need.
won't know that until we hear the full presentation, hear all the comments from the people in the public, and then we may call for a public vote. I can't say that we're definitely going to have a vote, but we're going to listen to everything first.
Okay, well, we have a limited amount of citizenry here this evening, okay? And so I think we really need to look at this a little more closely before we just jump into saying we're going to accept this. Because what is the purpose of this? I mean, if we're saying that we're accepting this for the purpose of the rest of the town, or is the purpose for fire protection and so forth for Pillsbury, it's under Pillsbury here, I guess, for their system?
Well, we're certainly going to have a presentation. They're going to present what they're looking for us to approve.
Yeah?
Hopefully, that's going to answer some of your questions.
Well, my question is, at that point, you folks have the decision to make whether you're going to just say, we're going to, yes, approve this.
Again, Mr. Breslin, I don't know until we have the presentation.
Well, this is something that really affects the whole town.
And we're elected by the whole town. And that's our job, is to make hard decisions. So again, I'm happy to let you speak during the public hearing. I'm happy to let anyone speak during a public hearing. That's
So-
part of the process.
so-
We don't know what they're going to present until they present it to us.
Who's going to be presenting this?
Mr. Malaguti will be presenting it tonight.
Well, that's from the town. There's nobody from Pillsbury that's,
It's not a Pillsbury, it's on Pillsbury Road.
Mr. Chair, may I?
I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm trying
Well-
to explain to you, we don't know yet.
well, if we don't know, we got to
Mr.
be very
Breslin.
careful.
They're going to present the project to us.
Who? Mr. Malaguti?
Yeah, he's going to tell us what it says. Once we listen to what the presentation is, we'll probably have questions. The public will probably have questions, and then we'll go from there. We may or may not vote tonight. I just don't know.
Okay, okay.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time.
No, I hope not. Thank you for allowing me to speak here.
Well, you're very
and
welcome.
we look forward to speaking after the presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Anyone else?
Thank you. I have a couple questions.
Name and address, please.
Oh, sorry, Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive, Londonderry, New Hampshire. I I believe the website still says that you have your meetings on the first and third Mondays. I was wondering if you intend to go back to that, or if not, perhaps it could be changed. Just a question. And then my second thing is the ARPA money that has been accepted and gratefully distributed partially to the police and the fire department. I just wondered if perhaps before more money is distributed, that it could be considered that it be looked at to try to, for studies or whatever is needed for our water problem. It's my understanding that the Utilities Committee received an additional, I believe, roughly $74,000 too. I just think that if we have this gold mine that we accepted, that would be better spent rather than maybe perhaps smaller projects. There's a difference between want and need. I know the police department and the fire department. I have no issue with that. Those are needs. But before other things are used, perhaps we should look at the need that we need it for utility. My third thing is I want to give you the definition of a word called decorum, a word that I hear all the time at the State House. I'm speaking as a citizen, not as a state representative. It refers to the correct and proper behavior that shows respect and good manners. Please keep that definition in your mind. I was unable to attend the last town council meeting, but I watched it. Part of it. I then looked up this document on the website. It's Chapter 16 Code of Ethics for the town. I was saddened that our own town code had no real provision that would allow for a formal complaint against the completely unethical and grossly disrespectful treatment of the residents present that conveniently took place after public comment, so those being attacked could not respond. This council member repeatedly asked what they wanted the town council to do. He also highly praised the council chair for running a great meeting. First to that, I invite any member of the council to come to the State House to see how a great meeting is actually run, with almost 400 people present, 200 on one side and 200 on another side. Never, never would the speaker allow any member of the House or any member of leadership to disgrace the office like what was done by the council member at this last meeting. Come take a lesson in leadership and how to run a great meeting. What do the residents want from you was the other question that was asked. Consistency. Don't allow some to use town facilities and others not. We all pay for them, and that might be considered discrimination. Don't allow some people to clap and others not. 2, follow the instructions of the municipal training that you took in all aspects of it, including no cell phones, they recommended. 3, do not suppress freedom of speech. Public comment is public comment, and it is not appropriate to dictate what we can talk about and limit our 5 minutes to 3 minutes as per your own rules, which appear to be used when convenient or for your narrative, much like how the town charter appears to be used. 4th, do not call people names when you are called out on blatant inconsistencies or perhaps forgetfulness. In my recollection, no one, when presenting these concerns, has ever yelled or cursed at any of you. And enough of how hard your job is. You asked for this job and are expected to represent all the residents of Londonderry with respect and dignity. No one ever be allowed by the chair to treat your constituents the way you did, council member. You owe the residents of Londonderry an apology. That is what a person of character would do. Please run your meetings with respect and dignity. Thank you.
Did I respond or not, Mr. Chairman?
Well, let's just correct one thing really quickly. One thing is, we'll correct really quickly, is that town facilities have rules. There is no discrimination. There is a process for using town facilities. So let's stop talking about falsehoods of how town facilities are being discriminated against for use. It's up to you if you want to respond.
I certainly will respond. First of all, I will tell you I will not apologize because what I said was the truth. And you should look at yourself in the mirror. You want to take a look at us? You look at yourself in the mirror. And you can say what you want, but you will never get an apology out of me. You don't see some of the emails that we receive that taunt us and say certain things. You don't.
Your comments are to the chair only, not to him.
And you don't. So you will not get an apology from me. Period. End of story. If you don't like it, don't vote for me next time. Just don't vote for me. I'm okay with that. You don't want to vote for me? Fine. But if you think you're going to get an apology out of me because I stand up to some of these people, you're sorely mistaken.
It was not how he was stood up to people. It was that he stood up to people. It was how it was done that was totally inappropriate.
Anyone else for public comment? Name and address.
Mackenzie Farrell, 4 Hancock Drive. I would just like to say I've been a resident in this town as well for 23 years. I babysat, I did so many things in the community, and I would like to say a lot of people who say that the town, is not doing a great job and come every meeting to say negative things and have different, things to say every time. A lot of people who are at home and a lot of people who are in this town are not having these same concerns, and I think it's a small majority that just like to say the same thing each time. Maybe we can bring different ideas, but I'm sure that the rest of the town would be coming here every single meeting, the moms, the dads, to say the same thing that that group of people is saying if that was actually the case. So let's just take that into consideration. I'll be kind. And also, as a fellow nurse, I would think that we should have respect for everyone as we were taught that. So I would hope former nurses also know that as well.
Anyone else for public comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. I just wanted to give you a couple of quick updates on some things going on at the fire department. So back a couple meetings ago, I know there was a town resident that was concerned with the Class B foam that we were currently carrying on the apparatus. And I had mentioned to him that the state was putting together a program last fall that they were notifying us and trying to come up with a spot that they could reclaim all this stuff, and then it just kind of disappeared. Well, so happens that the following Monday, following that meeting, we got another notice from the state saying the exact same thing again. But in that meantime, what I did is I contacted a company that does mediation for this sort of thing called Clean Harbors to try and get an estimate from them to reclaim the product that we have in the apparatus and then to be able to flush out the apparatus following that. Unfortunately, Clean Harbors has been over at Seabrook Nuclear Power Plant for the month because of their shutdown, so trying to get a response back from them has been a little bit difficult. I talked to the manager up there again today, and he assured me that I would have that quote by the end of the business day, which I did not. So I will update the council when that time comes in reference to how much it will cost to basically get that product out of the apparatus and to be able to flush the apparatus safely. To replace the foam that we currently have carried on the apparatus with this new green foam that's out is going to be about $6,000. Secondly, it became effective back in December of 2017, which is our ISO rating for the department. ISO is basically the insurance services office that they come in and rate your department, and depending on what rating you get, it helps with the homeowners insurance throughout the town. When I did it back in 2017, our rating was a 5/9, and you can go into reading all that's about. But we, after we did our survey and they came in and looked through the department and what our resources were, we went from a 5/9 to a 4/4Y. And we have staff working on this now that we have a member of ISO coming in on May 23rd, I believe. And we're going to redo the survey because they recommend you doing it every 5 to 6 years. And I'm confident that those numbers will go down with this latest survey, again, helping with homeowners insurance throughout the town. Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
Chief.
Chairman.
Mr. Chair, may I ask real quick?
Sure, of course.
So, Chief, people may not know at home, does that mean that the numbers have improved since the last time? A couple years ago?
Our numbers have improved since it was done back, so when I took office in 2013, it hadn't been done in like 8 years. So we redid that pretty shortly thereafter, and that's when we get this new rating. And it's a different rating system than they used to have, but the 5/9 versus what we went to, the 4/4Y, was much better than what we had previously. And I look at the resources that we have now, not only in the department with personnel and the training and our records keeping, because that's what we found that we were kind of stagnant on prior to, along with the water systems throughout the town. I think our ratings will, I'm optimistic that the number will go down, because the lower the number, the better the rating.
Do you know how often or quickly that may get updated with the homeowners insurance
So once we
companies?
finish our survey on May 23rd, it usually takes ISO probably a month and a half to get it back to us. And then that will go into effect, I'm assuming probably late summer, early fall, by the time everything's all said and done.
Wonderful, so hopefully homeowners will
Yeah,
stay on top of their companies and
Yep.
see if there's a reduction.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Anyone else for public comment?
Martha Smith, 38 Shasta Drive. And I'm not even sure if I can do this, but I wanted to speak to something that's on the agenda tonight, which is.
Are you looking for something that's under the public hearings?
I don't know.
Well, what is
It's-
what is the
it's
subject?
lease, the lease on.
You can speak to it now if you like to, but we're going to handle it under new business,
But then I wouldn't be able to say anything, would I?
not during new business.
No. So I'm going to say something now, if that's okay.
Of course.
Okay, thank you. I work at Max Apples, and I have for several years now. And I was upset when I read this on the agenda. That property has been farmed prior to the new owner. It had been farmed by the Mack family for years and years. And I think that this switch is, number one, I think it's going to be very confusing, because on one side of the street, it's going to be Sunnycrest. On the other side of the street, it's going to be Max Apples. And prior to this change, people had gone back and forth across the street. And I know that Max was interested in getting this lease too, and had been waiting since his lease came up in November, I believe, of last year. And I think that he hopefully worked with the town. I don't know what happened, but I think that this decision is going to have a big impact. And I think that as an employee of Max Apples, and I've spoken with other employees, it's definitely going to hurt us personally. So I just wanted to say that it's a very sad thing. If it's a done deal, I'm very sorry. And, I wish for the best.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Martha Smith, you know me, Ed.
Name and address,
Chairman.
please.
My name is Edmund Ford. I'm here on behalf of Moose Hill Orchards, LLC, Max Apples. Mr. Chairman, I'm here to express Max Apples' interest in that property and distress that it has not been involved in the discussions. The Moose Hill Orchards would be very interested in leasing that property, and thinks that the process, which has been sort of non-opaque, is perhaps causing difficulty both for Max and could cause difficulty for the town. We don't know what the terms are of the proposed lease. I know that Max Apples has suggested terms and has suggested some time ago different terms than had been in force in the prior years. For a little bit of history, that property was owned by Max Apples, Moose Hill Orchards, Inc., up until Moose Hill Orchards LLC acquired the property a couple of years ago. They did not acquire that parcel, as the council undoubtedly knows the town did. And Max Apples has been involved, had engaged in yearly leases as the town decided what it wanted to do with it. It's not at all clear to Max why it's not involved in a process to lease that property. Max would be the logical source, both because there is the problem of confusion between the two sides of the streets. Somebody comes in, gets a bag, goes, picks apples, picks one variety on one side, a different variety on a different side, and pays who. And because of equipment, after all, the Max Apples orchard is right there. So when spraying is being done on the Max side, you can move, continue on that evening into the 122's Pillsbury Road side. I'm uncertain what the process is at the moment, or what the process has been that caused, by which the town has decided it wants to discuss a lease of 122 Pillsbury Road, and would very much, Max would very much appreciate an opportunity to be part of that process and to present the town perhaps a better offer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Sherry Farrell, your town clerk. Just a quick reminder, we have our rabies clinic, our third rabies clinic, third annual, this Saturday, 10 o'clock until 1. It'll be held right here at the town hall through the hallway. Very successful last year, and we're hoping for the same this year. Please help us to spread the word. Not only can you get your rabies vaccination here for your puppies, even your cats, but you can also register your dog. 2 of my wonderful clerks will be available to you. Debbie and Carol are going to be here all through the morning to help. So thank you so much for all you do. And to the community, please help us all spread the word. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I have a public comment.
Please proceed.
This is addressed to everybody, council and community. I think we can all attack ideas, policies, issues. I think we can all have a difference of opinion, but let's not make it personal. We can attack people's different ideas, their policies, their issues, but don't attack the person. I think we all have a right to speak our opinion and to speak our own mind, but the personal attacks need to end. We can disagree on everything else, but don't make it personal.
All set?
I'm good.
I do have something, Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please proceed.
Thank you. So just for the record, I'm saying this for myself. I am one of 5. It's not behalf of the entire council. So fellow council members and members of the Londonderry community, thank you for being here today. Our public comment sessions are a critical platform that allows our residents to express their thoughts and concerns directly to the town council. While these sessions are not meant to be a debate, they provide a valuable opportunity for us to listen and learn from the community we serve. Over the past few months, we've experienced a heightened level of tension during these sessions, with some individuals taking a more aggressive approach in addressing the council. While I recognize that there are valid concerns and criticisms, I believe it is essential for us to maintain a respectful and constructive dialogue. I understand that tensions can run high, and sometimes, as we saw in our last council meeting, even council members may feel compelled to push back against unfounded attacks. An important aspect of maintaining this respectful dialogue is ensuring that the information shared during public comment is accurate and reliable. Misinformation can lead to misunderstandings and unproductive discussions. As participants in these sessions, we all share the responsibility of verifying and validating the information we bring forth to promote productive and honest conversations. I would like to remind everyone that cooperative and courteous approach is more likely to bring about positive change. It's often said that you catch more bees with honey than vinegar. And this holds true to our discussions as well. While we are open to listening to criticism and engaging in constructive dialogue, it's essential to keep in mind that respect and civility should be the foundation of our interactions. We have made progress as a result of these discussions, such as implementing roll call votes in our minutes and adding video links to increase accessibility. Moreover, we have recently released a significant number of sealed, non-public meeting minutes to further promote openness and trust. These are all positive changes that demonstrate our commitment to make the council's work more accessible and understandable to the community. Accountability is a critical aspect of our work as a council, and we welcome constructive feedback that helps us better serve our community. As a council, we're willing to listen and learn, but we request that those who come forward to address us do so with respect and a genuine desire for positive change. Let us celebrate our achievements, recognize the progress that we have made, and work together to create an even better Londonderry. We must remember that we all share the most common goal, the well-being of our community. Together we are better, together we are stronger. By engaging in open, respectful, and constructive dialogue, we can overcome any challenges and continue to build a bright future for our town. Thank you for your attention, and let us move forward in a united community, working for the betterment of Londonderry. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
With that, public comment is closed. So I guess the short answer is, be nice. All right, I'll accept the motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Or do you
Those in
want the-
favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative. Open a public hearing for the acceptance of unanticipated revenue, New Hampshire Charitable Foundation for the Fire Department training.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the council, Londonderry leadership. Upon my promotion to deputy, the chief of department, Darren O'Brien, had outlined his intent for me and his priority, and that was to basically prioritize the mental health and well-being of the members. As you've heard me speak in the past, without the members, we have no mission. So the mental health, the well-being of our members is the first priority. With that, we had started doing a full court press aligned with the firefighters union, Local 3160, under the leadership of Union President Chris Schofield, to come collaboratively with bringing in mental health providers from the outside to speak to and address some of the issues that we face day in and day out. And it's been very well received. On top of that, in May, we have a spousal class happening at Londonderry Fire Department, where a mental health provider, Dr. Nicole Sawyer, who's a licensed psychologist, is going to come in on a 3-hour session on an evening, and she's going to talk to the firefighters and their significant others or spouses so that the people at home and the home front can truly understand what it is that we're faced, to hopefully kind of build some bridges so there's an understanding there. So one of the things that I've always heard is you don't know what you don't know. I didn't know that there was monies out there available to secure funds, unanticipated funds, to bring in, again, carrying out the chief of department's intent to prioritize the mental health and well-being of our members. And so I had come across an organization called the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation who has monies available through a grant process. It just takes time, effort, and energy to put forth to secure these grants. So with the support of the command staff, with the support of the union, we had applied. And through the conversation, through the dialogue, through the meetings, through the Zoom meetings, through the phone calls and the emails, long story short, Londonderry Fire was granted and secured a grant for $10,000 specifically for additional mental health training. So it's a huge benefit. It's a benefit to the members, because if the members are good, their families are good. If the families of the members are good, then they can come in good, which they can do a better job for the taxpayers. But it starts with the member and their families. So I guess, I don't know how this works, this is my first time doing this, but I guess we're coming before you tonight for you to accept those unanticipated revenues through the grant that was awarded and secured by the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation. And again, that was for a total cost of $10,000 directed towards additional mental health and well-being and wellness training for the members.
Questions? Anyone?
Congratulations with moving forward on that.
Yeah,
Well done.
it's, you know what, honestly, it was a big confidence boost. I've never done one before. And the fact that with the support, we were successful, just kind of, I'm going to stay at it. I mean, there's money's out there. I'm all over it.
Chief, what was the time frame from application to,
It was incredibly streamlined. It was in total, I would say, 3 months, which is pretty quick.
yeah?
But the message was well received by New Hampshire Charitable, because there was some common ground that I had found with the person responsible for that, the board members. And, you know, we kind of lit it off and formed a good relationship where they were willing to support us. It was a no-brainer for them.
So follow-on question, Mr. Chair. That just goes to tell about how well the grant was put together. And, you know, I think that should be, I know Counselor Combs said congratulations, but for it to be that streamlined and go through that quickly, let it be a testament of how hard your work and your staff's work were in preparation for this, and continued support for you know, years to come. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're
and,
very welcome.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If you have any questions regarding this item only, please come forward. Seeing none, I'll accept a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much for your support, and to the taxpayers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, we are still in public hearing. Next item, acceptance of an unanticipated revenue for the community project funding for Pillsbury Pump Station and Force Main. Who's presenting? Where'd he go?
Mr. Chair, he stepped out. If you want to move to the next item, I can address the next item.
Why don't we, all right, we can do that. We'll skip over that one and go to the next item. Ordinance 2023-02, amendment to the zoning ordinance relative to the rezoning of map 15, lot 26. Ms. Karen, you are presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The rezoning request before you is for 206 Rockingham Road, also known as the location of the Granite YMCA. The YMCA had previously acquired and consolidated 5 parcels, creating one 15-acre parcel. This consolidation of multiple smaller parcels left the current zoning overlay of the property split between AR1, C1, C2, and the 28 performance overlay districts. The applicant is seeking to consolidate the zoning for the entire 15-acre parcel to C2. I'll note that this current use is permitted in C2, and that the planning board held a public hearing on February 8th, in which they voted to recommend approval of the rezoning request.
Hi, how you doing?
Hi.
Could you introduce yourselves, please?
Yeah, Jason Lopez, Keach Nordstrom Associates.
Lisa Bernard, District VP for the Granite YMCA.
Hi. Did you want to mention anything further about this project?
Just if there's questions, fairly simple.
Okay. Council, questions?
I was on the planning board when we had moved forward to approve this, so no comments at this time.
I have a couple questions.
Of course, please proceed.
So why not make it all C1 as opposed to, you have 2 parcels C2 right now and the rest is AR1. Just wondering if I'm a homeowner here on the AR1 side, do I want CR2 behind my house?
I actually started looking at this back in, I looked in my emails, it was back with Colleen in 2017. So it's been brought before our company a few times to look at the rezoning. The C2, there's multiple properties around that are C2, and just the discussion with the use, we've always kind of discussed the C2 as the direction to go. I'm not sure if you have the color map.
I don't have a color, but I have it written on. I did a little research before today,
So I think in our packet, there's a colored
Yeah.
map.
Okay, yep.
So that darker color there is, shows you all of C2.
Yep.
You can see how the property's is surrounded by quite a bit of the C2 zoning.
So what they try to do on the planning board is they try to have common zoning in common areas.
Yeah.
So then, correct me if I'm wrong, Kelly.
Nope, you're on the right track.
So they try to have similar zoning versus having different zoning all next to each other.
Right.
So I'm guessing that's why he
That
went
was
down that path.
Colleen's recommendation. at the
Colleen's
time.
recommendation earlier on, yep.
I just did a little bit of research on this over the weekend, and I was just trying to figure out if I lived in one of these three houses here, would I want a C2 behind my house? Why not make it all C1?
Again,
So I'm just thinking
we've
if-
just moved forward with the recommendation of the C2 to keep that consistency with the budding lots. And if there was something to happen, the Y is still obligated to go through the planning process, and that would come before the planning board, and there would be public discussion, and, if there were concerns, there'd be public time to address any comments at that time. So if there was something to be proposed that the abutters, whether it's allowed in the C2 zone or not, if it was C1, still abutters would have the right at that time to come forward and express their concerns at site plan process.
Could I interrupt for a minute? Kelly, could you just define the major differences between C1 and C2, please?
So I think the major difference in this instance is that recreational facilities, which I think this use best fits within that definition, that is not a permitted use in C1. So rezoning the whole parcel into C2 allows for the Y to essentially function as it is. I think it's important to note as well that a 50-foot buffer remains in place, whether it's C1 or C2, as required whenever a commercial district abuts a residential district.
Did we hear from any abutters at the planning board?
We did. They raised some similar concerns as Counselor Dunn. I think that, I said the similar comments in that a buffer remains. That the applicant at the planning board hearing also noted that the parcel to the north, I guess, the section of the parcel to the north is quite wet. So that wetland area, in addition to the buffers that are required for that wet area and the buffer I just mentioned when commercial abuts AR1, kind of makes that area challenging to develop if developable at all.
So why make the change at all? I guess is my feeling.
To clean up the zoning.
Right.
to one-
So let's make it all C1.
That's not up to me.
I was just saying,
Yeah, I
So-
think,
Is the AR1 piece the white piece on here?
Correct.
Yep.
yeah.
So that's the piece that goes back to the trailways? That's that wooded area that goes there, it opens up, it's directly behind the pool? Or is it it's to the right of the pool as I'm looking at the building?
when you're looking at the building, it's to the right, correct.
To the right, and there used to be the old, the schoolhouses across the street, so it's behind that corner lot that's on the right there. So it's going back along Clark Road,
Yeah,
going back to and then it ends at the trailway?
The trailways are just slightly north
correct.
of that. The commercial area that I mentioned that's wet actually abuts the.
So that's that area, I see them back there when they're like, building, wooden teepees and stuff
Yes.
like that.
We do have one program area kind of in that area. So really what we want to do is continue to expand minimal programming, potentially clear that lot so it looks nicer and we could utilize it, for programming for our childcare and camp.
Okay, are there any abutters here tonight? Okay, I'm sorry, Ron, please proceed.
I just don't see the need for it, so.
Anyone else? Anyone from the public?
Patrick Cassidy, 12 Elwood Road. I'm just curious what other options there are. You know, you're saying that recreational activities come under C2, and I understand that. Is it possible, I think some of the concerns are not necessarily about the current use, but about, let's say, you know, something happens to the Y down the road, and they sell to a developer that wants to put in, I don't know, whatever else is authorized in C2 that wouldn't necessarily be authorized in C1. I think there's some future concerns by residents. So is it possible to zone it all to C1, but give the Y a variance to operate as a residential? And again, zoning is not my forte, but it seems like there's more than just one path. And the answer, what I've heard tonight, is that, well, we're already on this path, and we've been on this path since we requested this in 2017 to go C2. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the right path. So is that an option to go C1 for the whole area, plot or whatever area, and then give them a variance to operate recreational? That's my question.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Please proceed.
So I was at the planning board meeting when this was presented. The attorney that was here and/or land area engineer was presenting some documents that, he had said, if this ever went away from the Y, there's a lot of the land there that's was deeded in inheritance to the Y. So if it ever stopped being the Y, nothing else could be done there because of how a lot of the documents were put forth. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, I was away and Mr. Keach was covering for me. He's got a lot more history with the property than I do. My first introduction with the property was in 2017. I don't know the answer.
Yeah,
to
he has
that.
a lot of the history there, and he was saying if it ever actually stopped being Y, it couldn't really be anything else with how the documents were written at the time. So.
That and ask,
But also, there's the other issue here that since this is recreational and education, it has to fit within the C2. Is that right, Kelly?
If that's how we're categorizing the use, then a recreational facility public is permitted in C2, not C1.
Can you provide a variance, though? Sorry, I didn't mean to ask.
That's not totally up to me. The applicant could apply for a variance if that is where we landed, but it's not a guarantee. That's a separate application and hearing process through the zoning board of adjustment.
And really, having the mix zoning this whole area, say if they ever wanted to expand onto the other two parcels along Route 28, it would make things very complicated for the planning department and when it comes to the planning board. So it would be very difficult, in the next 5, 10, 20 years if they ever wanted to do something there. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to read the minutes from the planning board meeting. Please proceed.
Yes, thank you. I guess the question or comment about whether or not this could be C1 and then, seek a variance for C2, maybe I'll rely a little bit on Kelly's input on this. But on the variance, to seek a variance, you need to prove hardship. Why is this property unique in, relation to all those around? And if we're applying for a variance for a use permitted in C2 but not C1, would the zoning board's opinion then be to seek rezoning of the parcel, where abutting properties are C2? My point is we need to prove a hardship. Why is it unique? And if it's unique because the expansion or continuation of recreational use, will we need a variance to expand this use?
Potentially. I mean,
Okay.
it depends.
So then comes the battle with zoning as to proving hardship. And we have the opportunity now to create the proper zoning for the current use, to go through this process, create a C1, to then turn around, have to go to zoning to ask for a variance on hardship because we didn't address it the first time. Would be my,
So here's the comment from Mr. Keach. Commented that he believed it would be difficult for it not to be used at the YMCA as some of the land was bequeathed or donated with a mission statement that if the YMCA were to relinquish ownership of it, they could not resell it.
Thank you for the clarification, John.
So that's what I was looking for in here. So that's what they were saying in there. This is also in the Performance Overlay District. So there's a fair amount of restrictions on this property as it appears as it's coming in front of us now. So Kelly, can we put any condition on this rezoning?
No, we've been advised by legal counsel not to condition rezoning requests.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just further reading to see if there's anything else.
Chairman, based on restrictions or deeds or whatever, maybe what we should do is get more clarification on that. Because if indeed that is correct, then I don't see the problem moving forward.
Well, what I'd like to know is was this particular line that Mr. Keach made researched, and can we verify this?
I have not verified it. I didn't research it. But if I could just add a comment about,
Sure, of course.
so when, there's no formal criteria for a rezoning request outside of what the rezoning application states, and it really speaks to justifying the request on the basis of health, safety, and general welfare of the community, and how that request is in accordance with the master plan.
Leaves
So
a
I'm-
lot open to interpretation.
Right, so I'm a little hesitant to get into what deeds say and what they don't say, when we should kind of be looking at the bigger picture.
Okay. All right, if there's no comments from the public, I'm sorry, sir, did you want to say something else?
yeah, just one other thing. This property does lie within the G5 retrofit growth sector of the master plan, which seeks to introduce activity centers. So this use is what the master plan is calling for in this area.
Okay, thank you. Anyone from the public?
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. And I just want to ask a couple questions, or try to get some clarification. We're talking about the Y here, who are great people doing some great things in the town of Londonderry, and certainly we want to support them. The only thing that I think the public has questions about, and perhaps even the butters that have brought forward and spoke about that, is exactly what the intent is here. I mean, we hear about we're going to clear up zoning and make it all the same, which, that's all well and good. But I think I'd really like to hear what the intent or purpose is from the why they want to do this. It's their piece of property. I mean, we've heard a couple of things. They want to do some things on the property. There is wetland on the property. So only so much of it can be used if you're going to build something or even put a field in, whatever. I'd just like to have a little clarification on that as to what can I ask this? Are you from the Y?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
I-
so you
No,
just your
I'm talking
questions
to you.
I mean,
No,
so
no.
at the planning board, you asked the same question. Chairman Rudd explained the town likes a parcel to be one zone, as they do not like split zoning. Mr. Breslin asked if it would be the best benefit of the citizens of Londonderry, especially the abutters. Mr. Keach mentioned that most of the time, rezoning proposals usually facilitate development or subdivision, but they have done the opposite here tonight. That was from when you were at the planning board.
Correct.
So how's it doing the opposite? Help me out here.
We are planning on, the purpose of utilizing that facility, that lot is to be able to utilize it for programming. You know, we have space within the camp, within our facilities, but we need more space, so it could be utilized for, we could add a pavilion to that space for groups for programming. We could utilize it for activity areas. That isn't 100% defined yet at this point.
Okay.
We just want to be able to utilize that space.
Can they not do that in AR1 today?
They can in AR1.
Can they do what Ms. Bernard just said in AR1? Can they utilize that space in that manner?
Not to its fullest extent.
Correct.
Okay.
And I
Thank
just want to add as well, the what-if scenarios about other uses that are associated with C2, any of those would need to be, come before the planning board for site plan approval at a minimum, if not potentially variances or other relief, depending on what the proposal is.
Okay. Anything else, sir?
Yeah. Looking at the number of parcels there that you're talking about putting together and making them all the same zoning, that's all well and good, but it's, for a couple of reasons, it's not exactly an ideal piece of property. As far as traffic getting out of there, I mean, I've been there and tried to pull out onto 28. Sometimes you got to take your life in your hands, or even to pull in there. So, personally, I'd like to see them have a nice new place someplace else. And that's a good piece of property for commercial, on that area.
I was just gonna,
Yeah, huh? Am I a developer? Hell no. No. I'm sorry, I got to be respectful here.
Okay.
But my point is, look, I mean, the Y, doing great things on a piece of property that, boy, be nice if somebody would donate you a nice piece of property and you could build a new facility someplace else. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? All right, so back to the council. What do you want to do?
I will make a motion to approve the rezoning.
Second. Second for discussion.
Okay.
Discussion.
Discussion.
I think what's important that Ron brought up were the neighbors. I think they have to realize that there will be a 50-foot buffer there, and that anything that changes, anything that changes on that lot, it still has to come back to the town. So it's not a question that if we approve this tonight, that there's carte blanche going. I mean, it's kind of difficult. The YMCA is a great organization. I've done a lot of business with them. They're good people. They provide a great service to the community. So with that, I'd like to take the vote.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Of course.
I fully support the Y, 100%. And support you 100%. I just can't support you on this. And 50 feet is nothing. To be honest with you, 50 feet is, so I'm just saying, if I'm a resident there, I just can't support this. I don't see the need for it. So, but I do absolutely support what you guys do.
I really wish I knew more about this whole covenant of the land thing.
Yeah.
Anything else? You want to vote?
Yes.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 4-1.
thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next item. We're still in public hearing, everyone. Resolution 2023-09, acceptance of unanticipated revenue, community funding project for Pillsbury Pump Station in Force Main.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Town Manager.
So, if you'll bear with me just a moment. So, Mr. Chairman, this, as you noted, is a community funding grant that Londonderry applied for and received to upgrade sewer infrastructure in South Londonderry. I just want to give everybody an overview of how our sewer facilities work in Londonderry right now. You can see there's essentially two systems, two separate right now sewer systems. The South Londonderry sewer system and the North Londonderry sewer system. The North ultimately depositing all of North Londonderry sewer flows to the Manchester wastewater treatment plant. The South Londonderry sewer system, for lack of a better phrase, deposits those flows to right here, which is the Derry wastewater treatment plant. And Londonderry has an intermunicipal agreement, which was renegotiated some time ago, that allows us to send so much sewer flow there. This is an old plant, and capacity is tight. And so as Londonderry has sought to build out its South Londonderry sewer system, the capacity shortfall at the Derry plant has been problematic. And it is problematic not only with respect to Woodmont Commons, which I'll come back to in a moment, but also other areas of South Londonderry, down Mammoth Road, down Nashua Road towards the intersection with Mammoth Road, and possibly even beyond. There was a time when it was hoped and even planned for that sewer would continue to extend all the way down Nashua Road. The capacity limitations at the Derry plant have made that not possible at this time.
So, Mr. Town Manager, my understanding is that there's different technologies for these plants. The technology that is in Manchester, which we contributed to, is currently the most updated technology you can have for wastewater treatment.
That's my understanding too, Mr. Chairman, understanding that I'm not an engineer, but Derry is a relatively old plant, and from an environmental standpoint, you're exactly right. I think Manchester is able to process things a little bit more efficiently, perhaps to a higher standard. So that's my understanding as well.
So the Derry, the additional lagoon at Derry is not scheduled to be opened anytime soon, from what they told us.
That's my understanding.
So
as
that
well.
while they may have more capacity, that capacity is for Derry, and they're not developing that new lagoon anytime soon, from what I understand.
That's exactly right.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
Mr. Chairman, I was watching the planning board meeting just last week. Woodmont gave the fiscal update. There was a lot of sentiment about, gosh, why aren't things moving faster? We want things to move faster. And as the assistant town manager pointed out, one of the big reasons that things aren't moving faster in Woodmont Commons right now is capacity limitations with respect to sewer. But as I said, that is also the case with respect to all of South Londonderry. And so as a municipality that cares not only about economic development, but also about the environment and trying to move people off of septic, it's important that we continue to invest in this sewer infrastructure system that we have in Londonderry. And I would note that just the last meeting, we had a presentation put on about all of our septic systems in town that are at risk of failure. Over time, the goal is to move as much of Londonderry off of septic as is economically feasible. So, as I said, Mr. Chairman, we've been pursuing this for some time. This is a project that we have been talking about since long before I became town manager. But you know, the stars sort of aligned shortly after I took over, and we were able to secure through Congressman Pappas's office, with support from Senator Shaheen, what's called a community project funding grant. And that is a way that representatives in Washington can send money back to their districts in ways that benefit the community. And this is one of those grants. The project will, and I just want to make sure that everybody's oriented here, construct a sewer pump station somewhere in this neighborhood, so near the intersection of Gilchrist and Pillsbury, and run force main all the way up to Bancroft, where it will connect into the Manchester system. That's important. It will connect into the Manchester system, where we have no capacity limitations really to speak of. We can send as much of our sewer flows there as we need to, and in terms of a long-term solution, that is desirable. This, I think that based on some of the things that I've seen recently, there may be a concern about, well, what kind of strings does this come with? Or what kind of restrictions are there? And there are some, to be frank. With grants like this, you have what's called Buy America, Build America, and that requires us to source certain materials in the United States. There are reporting and tracking requirements, as there are with all federal grants. But we really view this as an opportunity to take this long sought-after project and turn it into a reality. It will benefit Woodmont Commons. There is no question about it. People ask me, what can we do to help Woodmont Commons fulfill its full potential? Sewer infrastructure, sewer infrastructure, sewer infrastructure. But it will also benefit South Londonderry and the environment. As I said, I think people are surprised by this, but the Crossroads Mall is not on sewer. Buttrick, the medical user there, is not on sewer. And some of these developments down Nashua Road are not on sewer. There are a lot of reasons that we want to continue to invest in our sewer infrastructure, and that's why I'm here tonight.
Questions from the council?
I have a question.
Go ahead, please.
So this would pay for the construction of it. What about the long-term maintenance? Would that be on the town?
So I want to be clear. So yes, this will allow us to, this is part of the funding mechanism. We are still working on the rest of the funding mechanism.
Okay.
I don't want to hide the ball on that. But without this funding, this project isn't getting done anytime soon. You raise an excellent question about the maintenance. And the maintenance, it does not affect the tax rate. We have a sewer enterprise fund, and
Right.
it is supported with user fees.
Perfect.
Hey, Mike, can you bring that map back up?
Zoom out or zoom in?
Zoom in. So, you're talking about the pump station here, correct?
Correct.
Right in that area there?
Right around there, yep.
And
Where
was
his hand
that-
is,
was there
Jim.
any
I'm
type of
sorry, right around here.
Yeah, which is
Yeah.
right at the corner.
Correct.
Did we have any agreement with Woodmont on,
They own that land.
they own the property? Okay.
There was a conversation about 15 years ago about the town buying that land,
Right.
but the developer bought that land
Okay.
from Andy Mack.
All right, so if we allow that to happen, that gives us the growth potential in Woodmont. That gives us, if we're going up Hardy Road to Bancroft, that gives us growth potential into these neighborhoods. And because of our restriction on the sewer over Derry, it gives us growth potential down here, Mike. You can. Brings
right.
growth potential down into this area.
That's correct.
And then it also brings growth potential down this way.
Correct.
Because Manchester can handle the capacity versus Derry that
Exactly.
can't handle the capacity.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And just as an example of the power of sewer infrastructure, I want to point one thing out that the council is aware of. This is the Apple Tree Mall right here. And this sewer line did not exist until a few years ago. It was blighted. He couldn't keep tenants. The new owner was able, with cooperation from the town, to extend that sewer interceptor to the mall. And I think the difference between when that mall was on septic and when that mall turned on to sewer, night and day. It really, I think, is the single most important factor in terms of turning that Apple Tree Mall around.
Anything else from the council? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. If you have any questions about this item only.
Mr. Chair, real quick. When we accept this and the timing of receiving the money, do we have any idea upon when this work may actually happen?
Yes, so we're looking to bid this, if everything goes according to plan, we're looking to bid this by the end of the year and hopefully start construction next season, so in the spring.
Awesome.
Ray Bursons, Free Gary Drive. This is a big project. We have a lot of issues that's been explained in the town, probably 75% of the town on septic, which is a problem. And so it's very important that we support sewerage to South Londonderry. And technically, 102, exit 4, Woodmont Common and so forth, is technically sort of in South Londonderry. It's certainly not in North Londonderry. It's not in the middle of Londonderry. But we got a lot of property south of this, which is not connected into public sewerage. And this, what we're proposing here is to pump raw sewerage, that is untreated sewerage, to a pump station to pump it up Pillsbury Hardy Road to Bancroft, and then to hook into a pipeline that also has to be pumped to Manchester Wastewater Treatment Plant, who does have capacity and does have the ability probably to do it in a better manner than the town of Derry. Although town of Derry has got a pretty nice pump station over there. It's in pretty good condition. I've seen it. They've done a great job, but it's not a sophisticated a treatment system. So it goes and sits in these ponds, then they move it over to another one, and then they move it to another one. Then they pump it through the pump station that goes to Londonderry, Trolley Car Lane, Litchfield Road, and then ultimately dumps into the Merrimack River. That in itself is a problem and probably will not be allowed to continue by the EPA because of the pollution in the Merrimack River. It is treated affluent. All the solids and everything have been taken out of it. But what we're talking here is raw sewage, which, and it's going to have to be pumped because of the elevation. But here we are accepting how much? $4 million, a sizable amount, which, quite frankly, let's be straight here, is mostly going to benefit Woodmont Common. And it's all well and good to support Woodmont Common. They've been into it for 10 years. They came before and explained that we haven't been able to move forward much because of the utilities. Well, quite frankly, part of that is their responsibility. Quite frankly, with a billion-dollar project, they ought to have their own treatment plant on that property if they want to build it out. But they don't really want to invest any more money than they have to, and we understand that. That's business. But they also got a problem with water, and that's another deal. We're getting off subject here. But we're talking about in the same area, or pump station just for water. So now we're going to have 2 pump stations there. I guess we're not responsible for that, though.
We're only talking about sewer.
We're only talking about sewer, okay. So that's going to go over to Bancroft and then be pumped up. Look, I'm not an engineer, but quite frankly, all of the sewerage from a billion-dollar project should go under 93, should go over to Derry, and then there should be a pump station there to pump it all the way up to Manchester. That's what should happen. And then the town still has to deal with inadequate sewerage in Londonderry, particularly in South Londonderry. That's south of 102. We got very little. We got a lot of apartments, condos, and so forth that are on their own septic system. We got a lot to deal with here, and with all well and good taking this $4 million, and part of it is going to perhaps be helpful to the town of Londonderry, but the way I see it, mostly it's going to be to the benefit of Pillsbury and Woodmont Common. Just my opinion. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
Christine Perez, Wesley Drive. I have two questions. Do you have any idea what the total cost might be?
I do. Mr.
Can you
Chair.
tell us?
Please proceed.
$7.78 million.
Okay, so this is half of it, roughly.
Correct.
Okay. So where do you anticipate the other half coming, roughly half coming from?
We're negotiating with Woodmont over that right now.
Okay. My second question is, so if I am on 102, take a left on Pillsbury, okay? That new little development of houses there?
That's off Gilcrest.
That's good.
Stabile.
Catesby.
Or,
Take a left on Gilchrist.
Catesby.
Catesby subdivision.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Pretty little houses. Then I take a right.
At the intersection with,
Like I'm going to go over to Woodmont?
correct, and
Okay.
it would be essentially right there on your left.
Okay. And there's nothing there now? Weren't there apple trees there?
No, I don't believe there's apple trees. There's an overgrown orchard to the right. But this is the intersection right
No.
there.
Which is owned, am I correct, is owned by Woodmont?
Yeah, there it is,
We're
right
talking
there.
about somewhere in
Yeah,
this,
right
in
there.
this area.
On the left-hand side?
Correct.
Correct.
Oh,
That's
okay.
all- That's all owned by Woodmont.
Okay. So what does a pump station look like? Don't have a clue.
So if you go up to the plaza behind Exit 5, if you go up to the plaza off of Exit 5 where 501 Pizza is, I think it's Murphy's Pizza now, there's a pump station behind it.
Well, just give me a rough idea what a pump station. I mean, is it 4 stories high by,
It's almost like a little shed.
Oh,
It
it's-
looks like a little shed almost.
oh, it's a small shed?
So there have been a lot of discussions about,
in
it's a great
front-
question. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead. In front of Mountain Home Estates, there's a pump station.
I never noticed.
Well, then, then I guess you answered your own question.
There has been particular attention paid to the aesthetic of this particular pump station for the reason that I think this is essentially the front door to Woodmont Commons. And so it needs to look less like a pump station and more like
I was more concerned about those new houses there.
up on the hill.
No, the ones,
They're all the way down there.
not
They're
gonna
all the
see
way
it.
Yeah,
down.
You
those are
talking
way
about
down.
Sugar Plum?
Those
oh,
are,
not Sugar Plum, the ones before Sugar Plum on the right-hand side.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
that's-
they'll have to use proper screening and everything else
Right.
for the pump station.
Okay. So it's not a big building of any
no,
type?
no.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim Green, 22 Sugar Plum. And my question is, Sugar Plum?
Right.
Would we be part of that master plan then? It's a condo association, private road.
Yep.
Yes.
So if I understand the question correctly, so this is not unlike the rezoning matter. Before any shovels go in the ground, and a pump station goes in up here. My guess is, and I would have the assistant town manager correct me on this, my guess is that Sugar Plum may be an abutter to this parcel up here. Regardless, it's not going to be a quiet thing, and there will be an opportunity for further public participation in that process.
My guess, the additional question will be is, are they eligible to hook up to it? Yeah.
And I don't have the answer to that. I mean, what I can tell you is, and I'm getting outside my depth, but a force main is to transfer sewerage from one area to another. It's not to allow public hookup. Perhaps that's something that could come in time.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for our town manager.
Sure.
You said the connection will be on Bancroft?
Correct.
To flow north?
To flow west.
It's like in northwest, isn't it?
Let's see.
Yeah, up the Mammoth Road.
Northwest.
Yeah.
Because we'll go down.
Yeah. Northwest.
Makes sense.
Will there be any more potential work on Bancroft, as that road is a subpar road as it currently is, heading towards Mammoth Road, and it's not even to the current width of the town standards that it should be?
Right. That's a good point that you raise.
If we'll be tearing up, the whole eastern part of the road anyways, if there might be a potential to look at doing that at some point.
That's certainly something that I will flag as these discussions continue. But it's a good point, and I appreciate you raising it.
Hi, Ann Fenn. I'm at 18 Partridge Lane, Londonderry. My question actually has more to do with the Manchester wastewater treatment plant. And this, I just think it might be worth the town checking and seeing what the last inspection was that was conducted there by DES and by EPA. And I would get copies of those inspection reports. And we just want to make sure that we're hooking up to a facility which is meeting all the requirements, state and local, federal.
Absolutely. It's a good suggestion, Mr. Chairman, and we will make sure that that due
I hope after
diligence
the
is
millions
done.
of dollars we gave them, they did all the right things.
I will also note, Mr. Chairman, that one of the other requirements that comes, or the strings, however you want to phrase it, that comes with this money is an environmental review. And that is something that I think, frankly, is a good string to make sure that any environmental impacts from this work are well understood and are mitigated correctly.
Mr. Chair, to comment on Ms. Fenn's comments, there was a recent newspaper article from 2020 that the city of Manchester will be spending $230 million over the next 20 years to improve their wastewater facility treatment center. And that was actually came out of I believe, a lawsuit with the EPA. So they will be spending a good deal of money to improve the facility.
That's good. Yes.
I just quickly read an article that says they do make noise and vibration. But my question is, will this pump station also benefit the Gilcrest LLC development that is potentially going on down by me?
Not an engineer, but my fairly confident answer is no. That's much lower. That's a much lower area.
Right.
To pump that all the way up to the Pillsbury pump station would be a big lift. What this does do, however, is but the answer is indirectly.
Right.
Because the more
You get out, the more they can get in.
correct, the
Got
more
it.
you can send to dairy.
Right, so just for the record, that was Ms. Perez again.
That was what?
I was letting the person know you're
And-
taking the minutes, it was you speaking again.
And I think
See, they listen to a tape and they don't necessarily watch.
And just to clarify what I was saying there is the more flow that, because we have that capacity restriction in South Londonderry, the more sewer that from South Londonderry that we can move to North Londonderry, the easier we can send to Derry, which is downhill.
Gotcha. Is there something else, sir?
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. I just want to clarify here that what we're talking about is a pump station that is going to be connected into Woodmont directly to pump their sewage, Pillsbury to Hardy Road to Bancroft to hook in, then we got to pump it north, all that additional sewage. Now, what capacity is that going to be? What size of the lines? The roads that we're going to dig up, actually, Hardy Road is a pretty good road that's been paved fairly recently. Pillsbury's not a bad road. Bancroft is a mess, should be completely redone, probably straightened out. That's going to cost a lot of money, and we're talking about using some of this money to do that. And if anybody thinks they're going to, like Sugar Plum, connect into this, no, that's not possible because it's under pressure, it's being pumped, it's flowing all the time, and you want to hook into it, you're going to have your own pump station to hook into it. If anybody along Hardy Road thinks they're going to hook into that, no, they can't hook into it either. And by the way, I would like to know whether the engineering has been done on this to come up with a cost. We're hearing we're getting $4 million, and then that's only half of it. It's 3.8 further to finish it. We need some more answers on this. It's fine to accept grant money. We went ahead and were able to get that, but for what purpose? Is this for the town of Londonderry to take care of the serious issues we have with sewerage in South Londonderry below? Yeah, I mean, there is some hooked into. Let's see, South Schools hooked into, I think, and there is some south of 102, but not much. Not to mention all the stuff west that's also on septic, that's not tied in, which we're going to have to deal with in the town of Londonderry. This is not going to take care of our problems. And we're going to have to contribute and then probably maintain it. And we're saying that the cost of maintaining it is going to come from the users. That may be true. But there's a lot to think about on this. And I'm not sure we're there yet. I think we need to do some more research. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything from the council? What's your pleasure?
Move forward and accept. Like make a motion
Okay,
to move forward and accept, adopt resolution 2023-09.
Second.
all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Motion carries. Accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Public hearing is closed. New business, lease 122 Pillsbury Road to Sunnycrest Farm.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, if you just bear with me again for a second. Okay, Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to set the scene for this and then take any questions that the council might have. Just to, as a reminder, the town acquired this whole orchard adjacent to the town hall complex from Moose Hill Orchards, Andy Mack, and that occurred on June 24th of 2021. It was historically one parcel of land. However, as part of this transaction, it was subdivided into two parcels. The first being a roughly 5-acre parcel with frontage on Mammoth Road. And that parcel is 122 Pillsbury Road. That's what we're talking about tonight. That parcel is unencumbered by any conservation or open space restriction. The town acquired that for municipal purposes, and that is under the management and control of the town council. The rear 21 acres were acquired at the same time, and this is encumbered by use restrictions running in favor of the state. It's also encumbered by an open space restriction, and it is under the management and control of the Conservation Commission under RSA 36A. The purpose of acquiring, of doing this transaction in 2021 was to prevent this parcel from being developed. There was a concept plan that was done at the time. It showed a large number of single-family residences that could be sited there, and really to preserve the town's heritage and open space, and also to preserve an important wellhead protection area. The town did this transaction and did it with money from the Drinking and Groundwater Trust Fund. The property having been owned by Max until the closing on June 24th of 2021, we then needed somebody to care for it. The successor to Andy Mack was caring for the other Mack Holdings, and we negotiated an agreement that was intended to preserve the apple trees in their then current condition, and that agreement ran through the end of 2021. We then negotiated another agreement with Mr. Mack's successor to continue to farm and preserve and protect that parcel for most of 2022. That agreement expired on November 24th of 2022, and there has been no agreement in effect since with any lessee. Of course, the town is not in the apple business, and so when we acquired this parcel, it created the practical difficulty that we would always need to parcel with someone to maintain it. I think when we set out to preserve this parcel, we didn't know that Max was for sale. That was kind of late-breaking news as this deal had already been negotiated and was moving towards the finish line. After that initial short season, we did solicit interest in someone to steward that parcel. And that was in the form of a public solicitation dated December 29th of 2021, stating as follows. The town of Londonderry is soliciting interest for a lease of the town's property at 114 Pillsbury Road. That was the address of the parent parcel. The property was previously owned by Max Apples and was sold to the town in 2021. The town is looking for a lessee who can maintain the property as an apple orchard and make other permitted agricultural use of the property. All revenue generated from the property will be the lessee's. Nominal rent of $1 per year is anticipated in exchange for maintaining the orchard. Please see that there was a questionnaire that we asked applicants to fill out, and there was a close date of January 31st. We got 12 applications, and Moose Hill Orchards was one of them. Of the 12, we determined the following. And this is expressed in a memo that I wrote to the Town Council and the Conservation Commission on February 4th of last year. The town solicited public applications for an agricultural lease, which was required for Max Apples. I gave some additional background information about how the town came to acquire that property. Applications were accepted until January 31st, 2022. The town received 12 applications, including an application submitted by Max Apples. With the exception of Max, none of the applicants appear to have apple growing experience. Many of the applicants either do not have an existing agricultural operation or have a small operation or an operation that is not proximal to Londonderry. We were then able to come to terms with Mr. Mack's successor for a one-year lease. It was requested at that time for a longer lease, and the council and the Conservation Commission were uncomfortable with that, preferring to see how it goes. There have been, what I want to focus on is why I'm recommending that the town proceed to lease this property to Sunnycrest Farm. In my discussions with town councilors, in my discussions with the Conservation Commission, going back not only a year to when we had this robust public solicitation, but also a year before that to when I was representing the town in trying to secure this property for the enjoyment of Londonderry's future generations. What I heard from all of the public stakeholders was we want someone who is well integrated into the community and who will honor the public access that Mr. Mack habitually offered to the community, not only with respect to this parcel, but with respect to all of his parcels. And in the Hicks family, I believe that we have that. The Hickses have been farming apples in Londonderry since 1943. They are well integrated into the community. They know how to grow apples, and they are willing and able to take over this lease for us so that those apple trees can be preserved for the future.
Any questions?
No
questions?
I have a question. Mike, one of the issues that Mrs. Smith brought up, has that been addressed at all with the town? About people crossing over, not knowing who to pay for apples?
That is frankly something that's going to need to be managed. It's not something that would work its way into the lease, but I think that particularly on sunny weekend days in the fall, yeah, that's a concern, and I think that the Hickses are more than capable of deconflicting that with the town's cooperation and in consultation with Mr. Christensen.
I'd probably leave it to the farmers to figure it out.
And that's frankly one of the things that I didn't know anything about apple growing until I started representing the town and then became town manager. And the cooperation that Londonderry's apple growers have displayed going back hundreds of years is impressive. They're competitors, but they also respect one another. They know one another, and they cooperate on all of these issues all season long. Just for clarification, for additional information, Mr. Chairman, there are a couple of things going on with this lease. And by the way, I do expect the Conservation Commission to address the back parcel at their next meeting. I'm in negotiations to finalize the specific terms of the lease, but it's my intention to mirror those leases on the leases that we had with Mr. Mack's successor. They worked. Rent of $1, provisions that require the lessee to protect and preserve the apple trees, maintain the property as open space and for agricultural purposes, and to protect and preserve the groundwater. There is a slight difference between the front parcel and the back parcel. The front parcel, remember, was acquired, I think, in anticipation that at some distant point in the future, it might be needed for a municipal facility. In order to make sure that we don't lease away that right, we are looking at a 5-year renewable lease with an option upon reasonable notice for the town to get out of the lease on six months' notice, if something like that were to occur.
And that's only for the front parcel.
That's correct.
The back parcel stays in conservation forever.
It cannot be taken out. And then the legal issue, Mr. Chairman, is this. If you'll bear with me a moment. Under RSA 4111A, the legislative body, that is the town council, may authorize, in the statute it says Board of Selectmen, that's really referring to governing body, also the town council. So the council can authorize itself to rent or lease municipal property for a term of up to 5 years without further vote or ratification of the town. That's what I'm proposing the council do here, that it first take that vote to authorize itself to lease this parcel to Sunnycrest Farms for a period of 5 years, of up to 5 years, and then that the council take a second vote to do just that, to lease the property, to authorize me to enter into a lease upon the terms that I mentioned with Sunnycrest Farms.
I'll accept the motion to authorize the council to authorize a lease for 5 years.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. I'll accept the motion to authorize the town manager to execute a lease with Sunnycrest Farms under the provisions in which he's explained.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. We've authorized you to move forward. Now, the conservation one's going to come to us too, right?
It will come for informational purposes.
The
It's
Conservation Commission can't execute a lease.
That's correct. They have the management and control of the property under 36A, but it is correct that they can't execute it. So
it has to come back here.
that's, it's a little bit complicated, but that would be the intention, is to bring it back, yes.
Okay. Anything further? Alrighty. Next item. All right, so, Chief Butler, you have the next two presentations. Ballpark idea, how long do you think they're gonna take? I'll tell you what I'm debating, whether or not the folks that have been waiting to be interviewed for appointments and letting them go first, or having you guys go. You guys give me your opinion.
Citizenry to go first.
Okay, then we're gonna jump over to appointments and reappointments. We have planning board appointments, and we have interviews for that tonight. We have the appointment of Joy Mueller as an alternate on the Utilities Commission, and we have interviews for the trustee of the trust funds interviews. I'd like to take item number 2 and ask for a motion to appoint Joy Mueller as an alternate to the Utilities Committee.
Mr. Chair, could I add Deb Paul to that? On the utility committee as the alternate?
Well, I'm accepting motions for Joy Mueller right now.
Yeah, I didn't know if we could add Deb to that and have Joy and Deb be the two alternates on the two spots that are left.
Well, I'll entertain them as, I have one motion,
Okay.
I have one person's name on the agenda.
Okay.
I mean, if you want to make another motion after
Sure.
that, I'll deal with this one. So I'm looking for a motion to add Joy Mueller as an alternate on the Utilities Committee.
I'll make a motion to put Joy on the utility.
Second.
Second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
Mr.
So
Chair.
why don't we do the interviews? Come back to that, see how they turn out? Because I think the person you're talking about is being interviewed for something else too.
Okay,
And then we can address that then.
Sure.
If that's okay with you.
that's fine, yeah. I just,
Want to make sure. Okay, so we have planning board appointments. All right, interviews. Bear with me one moment here, since we're jumping around, I just need to jump back in the agenda. So, planning board. All right, so I have planning board. First one is Tony DeFrancisco. And this is for planning board. Kelly, how many openings do I have?
Mr. Chair, there's one 3-year alternate position.
Thank you.
Tony DeFrancesco, 1 Cheshire Court. Believe it or not, this chair is too low for me. There we go.
All right, sir. You're
Not sure why
welcome
that's
to make an
funny.
opening statement, and we'll ask questions, or we can go the other way around.
I do have an opening statement, so with your permission, I'll
Please proceed.
I'll go ahead. Thank you. So Tony DeFrancesco, 1 Cheshire Court. I've been a member of this community, a taxpayer, a supporter, and whatever else you want to say for the past going on 44 and a half years now. I think it's interesting to note that in the early 80s, I was the one who bought the first piece of land in Londonderry that was in the newly formed Commercial 3 district. That district was formed at the time as a buffer between commercial and residential, heavy commercial, light commercial, whatever, and residential. At the time, it was a brilliant move and was very successful. I did build a commercial building on that site, which still stands today, and that started my love for building stuff. I will tell you that as a result of that, I have kind of a unique perspective of having been on both sides of the table when it comes to planning, zoning, building inspectors, code enforcements, and whatnot. And I think that's important. I think it's an important quality for a planning board member to have. And the other thing that I learned over the years, including my 2 stints previously on the planning board, what I learned is that a land use board, and in this case we're talking about a planning board, is a seesaw balancing act from one meeting to the next, from 1 month to the next, from 1 year to the next, trying to meet the needs of the citizen landowners, the developer landowners, and balancing that with the current ordinances in the town and the master plan. And sometimes that's a difficult thing to do, but it can be done, and it has been done successfully many times. And I have had the opportunity to weigh those options as a sitting planning board member, and again, as a commercial builder at the time. And by the way, I've been asked before, do I still build stuff? And I will tell you, the last thing that I built was on my own property on Cheshire Court, and that was going on 8 years ago now. So the answer is no, I don't build stuff anymore. Let's talk about the fact that I think I've demonstrated the ability to understand that balancing act and have worked quite closely with town planners, code enforcement officers, and planning boards, zoning boards in this town, again, on both sides. At one point, as a citizen, I worked a little over a year closely with staff, the planning department, the planning board, and code enforcement, helping to craft language and changes to the portable storage unit ordinance. So I think I've clearly fully demonstrated in public the fact that I can do the job. The one thing that's changed over the years that I've noticed is that being a planning board member is no longer a commitment to a couple of meetings a month worth of time. It now requires many hours of reading, studying, and traveling to building sites to truly understand the impact of what is being proposed by a developer or a landowner. And it's important to understand that landowners have rights too. And it's important that we follow that balance to protect the town and to protect the taxpayers as well. I can tell you that I have the time. You could probably tell by the color of my hair. And I will commit to as many hours as necessary on a monthly basis to do this job successfully and correctly. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be glad to take any questions that your board might have of me at this time.
Gentlemen?
I have one question. You listed on the application that you're a Realtor.
Yes, I
Do you
am.
feel like that's any conflict of interest, being a Realtor and being on the planning board?
It isn't, and I appreciate the question, Councilor Dunn. The planning board is hemmed in by ordinances, regulations, and the master plan. And I think that precludes any problems that may happen or could happen. But I will tell you that as a sitting planning board member, I did step down during one particular case that I thought had the perception that I might have a conflict. And so I did step down for that case, did so willingly. And I also think it's important to understand that this particular appointment that we're talking about tonight is an alternate position. There are, I think, help me with this, I think 14 members on the planning board, 8 vote. Am I right?
7 planning board members that vote. There's
7
2
vote?
ex officios.
Okay, so 7 vote. So as the newest person, in fact, I watched the meeting, the last meeting, and there were just barely enough chairs for the people that attended that were members then. I don't know how we're going to do it with one more, but that can be figured out for sure. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you for your willingness to step up and volunteer and continue to serve the community.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Any way I can help this town, I'll be glad to do it.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Good.
Tony.
Thank you.
All right, so next on my list, and just happens to be the way it's in the packet, is Mr. Faber. So, Mr. Faber, you've seen how we do this just with Ms. DeFrancisco. You can either open up with a statement if you so desire to, or we can ask you questions, whatever your preference is.
Okay, I'll open up with a statement.
Okay.
When
So
I
for the
saw,
record- For the record, your name is?
oh, Sean Faber, 73 Old Nashua Road.
Thank you.
So when I saw this opening, I saw something where I could serve this community with something that fits my skill set. I've worked in regulated industries before. I've worked in nuclear power facilities. I've worked for Class 2 FDA med devices where you have to follow certain regulations in order, I mean, people can die if you don't follow the right things. Currently, as part of my job, I have to do security assessments where I have audits on all of my work. So I'm very familiar with regulations that need to be followed, how you properly do something, and forming a plan around them. This looks like something that would be pretty interesting to me to get involved with the town, help serve. It's something that I have no conflict of interest with at all. Clearly, I have no association with any property companies or any kind of real estate deals, anything like that. So I was very interested when this came up, and I'd love the opportunity to serve the town of Londonderry.
Thank you, sir. Any questions, gentlemen?
Yes, do you have any knowledge on construction or real estate or land development at all?
Yeah, I've taken some classes on how development works, zoning works, things like that. So I have some interest in the area, and I plan to learn more if I was appointed to this position.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
Thank you for your willingness to step up and continue to serve our community. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? No other questions?
Mr. Faber ran for town council in March, so pretty well aware of this.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Faber, what's the square mileage of Londonderry?
That I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Would it surprise you to know that it's 42 square miles?
No, that seems about right.
Would it surprise you to know that Disney World is 43 square miles?
Yes.
So Londonderry is the same size as Disney World. Boston is 45 square miles. So when someone said something earlier about like, stop talking about how hard this is, sounds like it's kind of hard. to try to figure out how to do the right thing in 42 square miles.
Absolutely.
We've been around since 17, I forget what the top of my hat says, 1722. How do you think we've done so far?
I think really well. I love how
That's
this
a
town
great
runs.
answer. All kidding aside, sorry. You guys sure you don't have any other questions? I gotta tell you. All right, well, listen, thank you very much for applying. Greatly appreciate it.
Yep, no problem.
Thank you.
I have Deb Paul as the third person.
Hi. I was putting planning board my second choice to utilities, in case I didn't get utilities. But I've sat on planning board, I've sat on heritage, I was part of the lookbook, original lookbook. I've sat on 1, 2 master plans. I was the person who was key in putting together for the master plan the part of it that would be called implementation, and which grew an implementation committee, because a master plan is a living, breathing document, and what good is it if it just sits on a shelf? The whole idea was to create it and make it moving, and so I understand all of that, and I think that's why I said too many to list, because there is too many to list. So that was the reason that I put my name in for planning board. It was for my second choice. I really wanted to be on the utility committee, since it was a committee that I had started, and I would like to continue to be on it. So, any questions, boys?
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna ask that next.
Okay.
As, gentlemen, any questions?
I don't have any questions. No.
I have a question.
Sure.
Are you for or against real estate development coming to town?
I am for conscious real estate development, good conscious. In other words, I don't want something just thrown in because we want tax dollars. I want something that is going to enhance and make our community better. I don't want it there just because they're the people who are jumping forward. We have rules in place that need to be followed, and I like businesses that come in and we don't need a whole lot of waivers for.
So I guess I'm sorry to make this comment, but
No, that's fine.
on February 23rd, you had said, as one counselor, I am not pro-economic development.
And the rest of that comment, if you want to take it out of context, that's fine, Ted, but the rest of that context was, I think it should be organic and naturally flowing, which means it shouldn't be forced. I believe that in websites, I believe that on a business. It shouldn't be forced, it should be organic. We want businesses who are here, who want to be here, not being desperate and saying, oh, please come because we want your tax dollars. I want a business that wants to be here and wants to be part of our community, and maybe the CEO wants to come and build their home here and be part of us and volunteer on boards. That's what I want, and that's what I mean by I'm not just for blanketed economic development. I'm for smart growth, and growth that is done organically by someone who wants to be in our town.
Okay, but I think those kind of comments need to be looked at closely in the future, as any business who may want to come to town could take those comments and say, we have a town council or now a planning board member who does not want economic development to come to town.
And I would, no disrespect, Ted, I would say that that's a good thing. You want a business who wants to be here and who wants to help the people in this town, who wants to help the nonprofits and the other community groups that says, you need a donation? Here it is. Do you need volunteers? Here it is. Not someone who just locks themselves away and pays their taxes and doesn't do anything to make this a vital and vibrant community. You want a quality of life that the businesses are enhancing, not just being there. That's how I feel, and I'm sorry you don't feel that way.
Anything further?
Thank you for volunteering.
Yep, thank you.
All right, next set of interviews. I have trustee of the trust funds. I have an application for Cindy Rice Connolly. Do I have any others? Cindy, if you'd like to come up? Is there any
Yeah,
other?
Jim Green is there.
Jim Green. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, Jim. I didn't see your, I just might be overlooking it.
You know, sometimes my beauty is just so awesome.
You know, Jim, that's probably exactly what it is. I was so stunned.
Before we start, Mr. Chairman, how many openings do we have for this?
We have one 1 year and one 2 year.
Thank you.
Jim, please proceed.
Yes, please. Name's Jim Green, 22 Sugar Plum Lane in Londonderry. The reason I think I may be well suited to this position, I think, is basically on my 20 years as the resource director at the Coast Guard Research and Development Center, where I did the Coast Guard's research development test and evaluation budget, which was a separate appropriation for Coast Guard, and also ran all of the accounting, personnel, and all other services for the R&D Center. So as another applicant said earlier, I'm very familiar with reading regulations, with following the law, and I just think this is, well, an interesting position, because I think it really doesn't get the notoriety it deserves, because it seems it has an awful lot of responsibility behind it.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Green? No. Thank you, Mr. Green.
Thank you for volunteering.
Jim. Thank you. Thank you for stepping up for what most people don't understand. Cindy? Hi, Cindy.
Hello. I've been involved in Londonderry for 44 years.
Not 44 and a half like Mr. DeFrancisco?
He gets confused. I was a little concerned when I realized there was only one person on the trustee of the trust fund, and thought this would be a good opportunity for me to continue my involvement in town. Working with Justin is a plus, and helping out in any way I can, I would like to do that.
Well, Cindy, you're certainly familiar to everyone, at least I think on the board. Any questions for Ms. Connolly? Well, real a big no question night.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
stepping up.
All right, let's knock off the easy one first.
Oh, God.
So, let's do trust fund first. Let's knock those out quickly. I'll accept the motion for, who wants to do 1 year?
I'll make a
Cindy.
motion to, are you gonna do it?
You want one? All right, yeah.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to nominate Cindy Rice Connolly for the 1 year trustee of trust fund position.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
I will make a
Cindy, please see
motion
the clerk
to-
can be sworn in.
I'm sorry, I will make a
Ahead.
motion to appoint Jim Green for the 2-year position.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative. Mr. Green, see the clerk and be sworn in. I'll take planning board next. Any nominations?
Make a motion to elect Tony DeFrancisco as a 3-year alternate.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes in the affirmative.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chair, if I could.
Okay.
Make a motion to put Deb Hall as an alternate member of the utility committee.
Second.
discussion?
For discussion.
Okay.
Do we have any open spots?
We have one open spot.
Didn't we just appoint
Yeah,
Joy Mueller?
There's one open alternate
There's-
position.
There was two when we started today.
How many positions do we have? One or two?
Thank you.
Someone answer that,
No.
please.
When we started today, there was two openings. We filled Joy, and now we have one left open.
Is that correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. Okay.
Bear with me for a moment, Mr. Chairman.
The alternates right now are Ray Breslin, and we just appointed Joy. So we have one other alternate spot open.
And we don't have a section for the count. My understanding, Mr. Chairman, is that there was one open alternate position. And if the council appointed Joy, then there would be none.
Okay, so, just. Yeah, sure, why don't you come on up? I'm just trying to get an answer.
I'm just remembering what was said at the last council meeting. Deb Paul, 118 Hardy Road. Somebody resigned. Ray moved forward to the full-time, which left two alternates, and I had said it at the council meeting. I said I wanted to be on it, and we had to wait till after the election.
Right.
And you said, yeah, that we'll
Right.
hold that spot for you, blah, 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 blah. So that, I don't know if the website didn't get updated, but Ray got pushed up to a full-time, and then there were two alternates. That was my recollection of the last town council meeting.
All right, thank you.
I can't say.
Did somebody resign?
I recall that, but I don't, off the top of my head, remember.
I just haven't had a resignation come to us.
Yeah.
So, all right, so let me just, we need to find out before we appoint somebody.
Correct.
Can you withdraw your
Sure, I'll
motion
withdraw
so
the
we can
motion.
find out?
Absolutely,
Can you
withdrawn.
withdraw your second?
Second, I
All right, so what we're gonna
withdraw.
do is we're gonna, I don't think the right term is to table this, but what I wanna know is by the next meeting, I want a list of who the members are, who's in what slots, and then we can take a proper vote. And make sure everybody's sworn in, and if anybody has resigned, let's accept their resignation and make the appropriate changes. Just as long as we do it right. Good?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Good.
All right, I apologize for that, we just didn't know, so I apologize.
Aye.
All right, so back to number 2, Council Order 2023-02, Executive Summary by the Deputy Chief, Battalion Chief, and Lieutenant Lammy.
Oh, yes, sure. Here's a.
Thank you. Thank you again. So, got a two-part quick presentation. One is going to be for an executive summary on Council Order 2023-02. We have executed that document and feel it our obligation and our responsibility to update the council and the taxpayers with where we stand with the monies that were granted to us to complete this mission. The second part is going to be a thermal imaging camera presentation that was at the direction of the town manager and the finance director to put together for you because we will be seeking ARPA funds to make this a reality. To my left, we have Battalion Chief Bruce Hallowell and Lieutenant Chris Lammy. They are here, one, to develop themselves professionally for the organization, to become the best leaders they can, and we do that in these uncomfortable positions, but also because they played a very important role on seeing this executed. And execution is the key word, where oftentimes plans fail, but in this case, we have executed. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to BC Hallowell, and he's going to do a quick summary on the executive summary that we have here for tools and equipment.
Thanks, Deputy.
You got it.
Members of the council, thank you for having us. Just wanted to, as the deputy stated, give you a quick overview of where we stand. So as you'll remember, Council Order 2023-02 authorized the fire department to expend $173,293.88 from our capital equipment fund. That was a significant debit to our account, but it's given us some significant equipment. So as of April 20th of this year, we've successfully ordered all the tools and equipment that we identified in what we call the MLO, or the minimum loadout for our fire apparatus. With the exception of one portion of that program, which is what we call our high-rise or extended lay package. And to put that into the most simplest terms is, on our fire trucks, we have hoses that we have connected all the time, and they're ready to be pulled off the fire truck. The length of those hoses is 200 feet, which is an adequate amount for most of our residential and small commercial buildings. Where we get into what we call a high-rise, or a Londonderry high-rise, or an extended lay is when we exceed the ability to operate in a fire environment outside of that 200 feet. So we can only get the fire truck so close. So many of the larger buildings in town have what we call standpipe systems built into them. And that allows us to connect our fire pumper to the building itself, the system in the building. We pressurize that system throughout the building, and then firemen make their way into the building, and then they go to pre-designated standpipe locations. The most visible example of this is if you go to a hotel and you go down the stairwells instead of taking the elevator. In those buildings, you'll see this round 4-inch pipe that has connections on each floor. That gives us water to fight fire outside of the ability to get to our fire truck hoses. So that program, as I'm sure you can imagine, has had to be expanded and developed as the town has expanded, and we've got some massive buildings now that require us to have more advanced hose lines and hose stretches. So what we did was we put together a workshop. Lieutenant Lammy worked with a number of the manufacturers for hose and nozzles. They came to our fire station. We evaluated the flow out of those different types of hoses and nozzles, and we invited all the members of the department to come and be part of that workshop so that they can understand what the best package is for us as we walk down this road of how do we extend our lays on these larger buildings. So that took place on April 13th, and we're just working our way through the data that we acquired from that, and then we will be making our selections as it's related to those hoses and nozzles. So that's really the only component of the program that we have remaining, and it's basically down to 2 different types of hose and 2 different types of nozzles. So in total, we had about 63 items that we presented for you as part of our package. We have received in 23 items so far, totaling $14,665.59. We have placed an order for an additional $42,700 for hose that goes on the fire trucks. As many people may know in the public and as council knows, we did have a structure fire within the last week. And I'm happy to say that our members did an excellent job of what we call loss stop, so keeping the fire from as much of the building as possible. They essentially stopped the fire where they found it, which is what our goal is. But the exciting component of that for me, anyways, is a number of the tools that you authorize funds for had already been purchased and placed on the apparatus and got used that day. So we have already had a positive impact on the firefighters, the men and women doing the job for our department. In addition to that, we just recently received one of our 4-gas meters, which gives us the ability to check the environment within a structure or within an enclosed area for hazardous gases. We've added an event fan to our complement, as well as a training mannequin for the training and development of the extremely new department that we have. So at this point, we have about $131,996 of the $173,293.88 allocated. And we anticipate spending the remaining money on that extended stretch. As a member of the department's command staff, I just would like to thank not only the council, but the community support with providing us not only the best people, but the best tools and equipment that money can buy. And that concludes our executive summary on the Council Order 2023-02.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
All right, moving on, Lieutenant Lamy's going to go ahead and present the PowerPoint presentation on securing thermal imaging cameras, otherwise known as TICs, T-I-C. So go ahead, LT.
Thank you, Chief, and
Yep.
thank you, Town Council. Tonight, we're going to talk about thermal imaging cameras. I know it's getting late, so I'll make this quick, but I will put as much info out there
Take
as I
what
can.
time you need.
Well, perfect.
Doesn't matter if it's late, we need to make sure we understand.
Sir. So the outline's going to be, we're going to talk about the mission, the goal, and the end state of this project, a brief history about thermal imagers, why we're here in front of you today, the selection process, and the recommendations we have for you tonight. So mission's always our number one priority. We're here to save lives and protect property. But one thing we always miss is also to include our members to make sure they go home safe at night with their families. So that's always the mission as well as the Londonderry Fire Department. The goal and how we're going to get to our mission using these thermal imagers is to help see through zero visibility conditions, improve search times, locating possible fire victims, locating the fire quicker, monitor fire spread behavior, and locate hidden fires between the structures, and improve firefighter survival, which is the number one priority when it becomes our priority, whether it's disorientation, maydays, or sudden changes in the fire conditions. The end state tonight is going to be to equip every Londonderry firefighter on the fire ground with a thermal imaging camera. Just a brief history. Thermal imaging cameras are a declassified military technology. It became very mainstream in the fire service in the 1990s. And one particular incident that's well known to us close to New Hampshire is the Worcester 6, back on December 3rd, 1999, where it was the catalyst of TIC technology implementation here in the Northeast. So why are we here today? You guys remember July 27, 2022. It was the day that we're almost, sitting to the left of me, almost didn't make it home to his family. And the guy to the right of me, the deputy chief, saved his life. And under the leadership of our fire chief, we're here to make sure that never happens again. One of the major things out of that report was a thermal imaging camera for every riding position. So that's why we're here in front of you tonight. Real quick, we're going to talk about thermal imaging cameras. There's really two basic cameras. One's a situational camera, and one's a decision-making camera. Decision-making cameras are usually for the officers, and a situational is more for the firefighters. So those are the two major types. What's big about both of those, it comes down to the picture resolutions, how fast they process, the refresh rates, and the size of the cameras are all the differences sometimes between a situational awareness camera and a decision-making camera. So we go back to the goals from the beginning. We talked about seeing through zero visibility. If you see the picture on the left, that's what we see a lot inside homes. You can't really see much. Sometimes you can't even see the hand in front of your face. We can use the cameras in the picture in the middle to locate fire, to help find the fire quicker and to put it out quicker, because when the fire goes out, that's the number one goal for us. And then all the way to the right, we can also use thermal images to find downed firemen, victims, and make quick search quicker for us to find anybody in the home. This is just a quick video. We had a training down over the summer at Station 2 where we did some training where a firefighter was trapped, and we had to send a RIT team in, our firefighters, to go in and find them. and how quickly they were able to find them using the tic-tac technology. So these firefighters right here are working together to get the downed firefighter out as quick as they can.
Lieutenant, can you explain what RIT means?
So RIT is the Rapid Intervention Team. That's the team that's always on standby at the fire ground. So if somebody goes down, one of us, we activate that team, and their job is to go in and get the fireman that's down.
And part of that is you need to locate the
As fast as you
firefighter
can,
as
yep.
fast as
And
you
that,
can.
and that goes to the firefighter calling the Mayday, how accurate he can give his location as best as he can remember. And then being able to find him as fast as you can, because depending on how much air he's been in there, the quicker you can get to him, the faster you can get him out.
And not to deviate too far from the tick, but when you're going in for a RIT call, there's multiple gear items that you bring in as well, in addition to a tick. Is
That's
that correct?
That's correct.
Like,
We could bring spare air, saws, Halligan bars, airbags, tools to cut stuff. There's multiple stuff.
so visibility would be important.
Very, because the quicker we can get to them, the quicker we can get them out.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
As well as other obstacles or
That's right.
hot spots and stuff too. Thanks.
So on the right is the current thermal imager we have, which is this one right here. It's by a company called Bullard. And then on the left is one of them we're proposing tonight. That's the FLIR 33. And just so you can see how much the technology has improved over the years. And it's the same exact picture. And you can see on the right's what we have, and on the left is what we're looking to.
Wow, you guys were using that before? Jeez.
The one that Council Fawns.
That's what we're using before.
And
That's what we're currently using today.
So yeah, if you look at us, you'll.
These are both decision-making?
Correct. Well, so the Bullard, the blue one, was decision-making about 12 years ago when we purchased those cameras. The FLIR K33 is actually, I think Councilor Farrell has the K55. 65, excuse me. You know, they're 2023 technology as opposed to, 2010 technology. It's come a long way. The other major component is that as it sits right now in the Londonderry Fire Department, we have thermal imaging cameras that are assigned to the officers, but they only exist on our 3 frontline engine companies, our 2 ladder companies, and 1 in the command car. So realistically, if you're a Londonderry firefighter, you could roll out an ambulance, go to a fire, and have no thermal imaging camera as it sits today. What we're proposing to you tonight is to literally equip every single firefighter that rides in a position in the Londonderry, New Hampshire Fire Department with a thermal imaging camera that will give them the ability to see in zero visibility conditions. And as Lieutenant Lammy indicated, the 27th of July last year, I became disorientated on the 3rd floor of a commercial occupancy with a probationary firefighter. A lot of people ask, how did that happen? Lieutenant, 17, 16 years on the job. How did that happen? It happened because we were in zero visibility conditions and only one of us had a thermal imaging camera. So that means that one of us was not wasting, but using air to explain to the other person where he needed to go and how he needed to get there because I was the only one with the eyes. As the lieutenant indicated, if everybody can see, we can move more expeditiously. And that's why one of the findings from our near miss report was that we should be equipping every firefighter with this technology. In the grand scheme of things, it's cheap money.
So Bruce, I'm a simple guy. How many on a shift? How many cameras do we need on a shift?
On shift right now?
How many cameras are you proposing to have on shift?
35.
35 cameras per
Total.
shift.
Well, 35 total cameras. So on every shift, there's the potential for firefighters to operate in 35 different positions throughout the fire department based upon the riding positions that we have, right? Because we have 12 members on shift, but we have 17 vehicles that get staffed by the same people. So you can go from the ladder to the rescue to the ambulance. Each one of those trucks needs to have the camera on it because each one of those trucks could be coming to or going back from a building fire.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody understands what you talk about riding positions,
Sorry, yes,
Yeah,
I talk fireman speak.
and that's completely fine.
That's why
Just
we-
want to make sure everybody understands what
Yep.
that means.
So for the public and for those watching at home, when you sit in a seat in a fire truck, there'll be a thermal imaging camera for you to grab and take with you into a building.
So
That's the
I-
simplest way I can explain.
I got a question for the lieutenant. So, seeing you on Saturday at the 5K with the ambulance makes me think when you're coming back from, like, you did a transport to the hospital or something like that, and that say there's a fire or something like that, you're proposing, as the battalion chief is talking, you're proposing the riding positions, so each rider in the ambulance would have one as well to help with the response, say there's a call for service or something on the way back, is that correct?
That's correct. So there'd be 2 on the ambulance.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Every seat gets a camera.
So,
Right.
That's it.
so the distinction between riding positions and assigning them to people, my understanding is you don't necessarily want to assign them to people because then you have to remember every time that you're, going to a different piece of equipment, oh, I got to grab X, I got to grab Y, I got to grab Z, and mistakes happen.
And if we were to assign them to every person, we would need 60, because that's the number of personnel that we have, just under 60. But if we just assign them to the riding positions, that's how we assign SCBA packs, that's how we assign tools, everything's assigned to a riding position. So, when Lieutenant Lammy comes into his shift tomorrow morning, his riding position will be Engine 3 Alpha. That's the officer's position. The guy who sits behind him is Engine 3 Bravo. That's the backseat position. And we're very fancy in the fire department. Engine 3 Charlie, which is the chauffeur, is the driver. So every single one of those positions will have a thermal imaging camera.
So let me ask this, if I may.
Way too many questions.
I know.
You had no questions for any of the interviewees, and you got all these questions for the fire department. It's just not fair.
So, you throw me off. What about maintenance? So I'm assuming if there's a proposal for 30, and I don't want to get too granular, but if there's a proposal for 30 versus 60, the 30 is going to be used twice as much. How do you solve that?
30 is going to be used twice as much.
Well, yeah. So
Maybe I can clarify.
thank you.
You're looking for 35. Is that the number?
That's correct. Yep.
What is your maintenance and repair number? Is 35 going to cover you for maintenance and repair? Do you need 40 because you need that many to make sure there's one, you know what the cycle is that you have to do maintenance and repair?
So
What he said.
So the maintenance and repair is pretty simple. Lithium-ion batteries. So you're looking at a battery cycle of every 3 to 5 years. One of the things we do a poor job of right now is all of our thermal imaging cameras sit on chargers that sit in the fire truck, and they just sit there and boil the batteries off. With the new program of thermal imaging cameras that we are presenting, there'll be a rack charger of batteries in the fire station that are demand chargers. So at the beginning of a shift, a firefighter will change his battery in his portable radio, he will change the battery in his thermal imaging camera, and he will change the battery in his cardiac, the cardiac monitor that they have on the truck. So battery maintenance is a common thing that we do. Battery rotation is very common for what we do. These will not sit in the fire truck charging all the time. They will sit in the fire truck ready to go all the time. And then the members will change the batteries at the beginning of their shift. The rest of the maintenance, you bring up an excellent point, and Lieutenant Lammy was going to get into this when we got to the selection process slide. The reason why we're selecting Fluor or Teledyne is because they're a local company. They are right on Lowell Road in Hudson, New Hampshire. We can literally drive a thermal imaging camera there. They'll give us another one while they repair the one that we broke. Not going to say we're not going to break them, but our firefighters generally take very good care of the equipment and the tools that they're given. Firmware updates and software stuff like that will be handled by Fluor themselves. They've been the most forthcoming and willing to work with us out of all the manufacturers that we've demoed and played with. I hope that answers
So
your question.
35 is the right number
35,
right now.
to be honest with you, the number that we're proposing is incredible. We had a Nashua lieutenant come in and speak with us a couple weeks ago, just talking about equipment, and we mentioned this to him. Now, I would consider, aside from Londonderry, Nashua Fire Department is probably one of the most premier organizations in the state of New Hampshire. And when we said we were going to assign a thermal imaging camera to every riding position, he looked at us like we had, 1,000 heads. He goes, "That's unheard of. Nobody's doing that." We're going to do it with your support. That's
You're
what we intend
convinced
to
it's
do.
going to save lives.
I'm convinced that it's already saved lives and will continue to save lives. As a matter of fact, the camera that we're passing around tonight is the camera that came off of Engine 2, which is the camera that I had in my hands when I was on the third floor of Shanita Road. So that camera truly has already saved lives, and these cameras will continue to save lives.
Lieutenant Lamy, you got more of
Yes,
your
absolutely.
presentation?
If I
Or
can
you
make
just want to cut to the chase?
Keep going, Lim. I want to hear it.
We're almost there.
Lim, you're almost there. Keep going.
So, so 3 months, we did our due diligence. We talked to 4 manufacturers, and we brought in 7 different models to the department so guys could take a look at them and demo them. There was a demo process. We used SurveyMonkey. We had a finalist. We used the survey again to try to get some more feedback, and then we developed the recommendation, and that's why we're here tonight. Real quick for the people watching at home and the community, we're asking this money to come out of the funds of the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan Act, which was signed in law on the March 11th of 2021. And that gives the flexibility to decide how best to use these funds. And the recommendation before you, because you might ask reasons coming up, is we're asking for two different types of cameras. The K33, which will be for the firemen, and the K55, which would be in the officer's position. Now, you may ask, why not just get all K55s? Well, one of the big things, and it was brought up tonight by the community, is we like to see the ARPA funds be used elsewhere as well. We don't want to ask for an exorbitant amount of money and take away maybe some of the other avenues for that money to be spent. So we felt in our research and our development of figuring out what we wanted, the best return of investment, the best cameras that money could buy to give us the best amount of technology and stay within a nice number. Some reasons that we chose the 2 FLIRs were they're both in the 60 hertz range. They're both the same size. They both have the same 4-inch screen or display. And we talked about the customer service being in our backyard. But what we also didn't talk about is we're going right from the manufacturer. We've cut out all middlemen. We've cut them all out. We're buying right from them, and that's saving us a lot of money. We were able to negotiate a pretty good number, in our opinion.
Factory directs.
Any other questions?
Yeah, do you want to know the number?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 124,000.
$740 million.
That's correct.
Wait a second, let me check first. Any more questions?
I do have a question. Kind of, I guess relevant for timing. So all these are run on batteries. How long do the batteries last?
About 4 hours runtime.
4 hours. And what happens if you're at a site and you need more time on that battery?
We'll switch them out.
You have will you be purchasing more batteries for that situation?
Every camera will come with 2 batteries.
Okay.
And with 35 cameras,
That's 70 batteries, right?
Yeah.
it'll be a lot of batteries.
Great. So that second battery will also be in that seat?
Yep.
Somehow?
Yep.
Okay.
And there'll be other trucks that are there that might have spare batteries as well, because not everybody might be going into the fire, so we can borrow batteries as well. There'll be some in the command car.
And you guys have designated a spot on each seat where these cameras will be going already?
They're going to hang right on their SCBAs so that every time they get off for an IDLH atmosphere, their camera will be with them.
And how does it go with you to a site? Do you have a spot on your suits that you're carrying these with you?
There's a lanyard that would be
A lanyard.
attached, yeah,
Okay,
with a
great.
carabiner on it.
It's like a dummy cord, retractable.
Okay. And you thought that the weight wasn't too much?
So
Extra
the,
weight?
The weight's about 2.5 pounds. The blue camera was just shy of 2 pounds, so we're talking about a half a pound.
Okay.
For a much higher refresh rate, a much better screen. I mean,
Certainly.
I'm sure you all, and
You
be
can
happy to share with
sacrifice another half pound.
the
Yeah.
public as well. We just added 3 pounds to our air packs, so a half a pound on a
Yeah.
thermal imaging camera that can literally show you the way out. We looked at, if you Google thermal imaging cameras or whatever, the big one to talk about right now is the Seeks. They're like $450 or $500. Honestly, they're throwaway cameras. To me, that's not the best we can buy. That's not the best we can equip our firefighters with. Speaking, candidly, I don't want a throwaway camera in my firefighters' hands. I want something that we're making an investment in that will give them the technology, and not just the technology for today, but technology for tomorrow and the day after and the day after. That's what I want to provide for them. And from where I sit, that's infrastructure, investment, not a throwaway camera. I wouldn't even feel comfortable coming forward with a throwaway camera. This is a capital expenditure.
Wonderful, thank you.
If you're good.
Mr.
good.
Chair,
One
you just
question.
need a consensus.
Just one quick question.
Wait a second, someone else wants to ask a question.
Just one quick question. It's an easy one. Mr. Malaguti mentioned earlier that some of these opera funds come with strings attached. Is there any strings attached to this money that you guys are?
Not that we're aware of.
Okay, just wanted to ask a question for the
Yeah,
public.
one thing to understand about the ARPA funds is that everyone keeps talking about all these strings being attached. We're a Dillon Rule state. The state got $900 million. Right? If the money gets recalled, the state's on the hook. Now, the state can come and they can come after us all they want, but they accepted the money. So other communities like us accepted the money because the state has it already. Because if we didn't take it, you know what they're going to do? They're going to give it to Derry. So, or they were going to give it to Manchester, or they were going to give it to Hudson. So all this thing about ARPA funds and, whether we should be using the money or not using the money or what we should be using it for is all being very, very, very carefully looked at. The state accepted the money from the federal government, just so we all understand that.
Good explanation.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
those other towns and cities can be jealous of our cameras.
That's great.
More importantly, we're going to save lives.
I just need a consensus?
Consensus is fine, Mr. Chairman.
Approved.
Absolutely.
Good.
Approved.
Done.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very
you.
much.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you
Great
very
work.
much.
Thank you,
Thank you
guys.
for your support. It means a lot to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
And to the community as well.
All right, I know we were jumping around here tonight. I think, has this been signed by everybody?
I believe so, there's only one spot to sign.
Yeah, okay,
Did
good.
you sign that?
What is it?
This is, yeah, he signed it.
Okay.
It was from the tax collector. Okay, so I have two motions here around the minutes. I have the non-public minutes from April 10th. You were all present. The town manager and the assistant town manager were there. We voted in non-public session to enter into public session. We released the minutes for 17 meetings. I just need a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Minutes are approved. I'll accept the motion to approve the minutes as they are presented in our packet from the April 10th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Minutes are approved. Liaison reports. Anything new to report? It's been 2 weeks. Got nothing new to report?
With brevity.
I'll tell you.
We had a wonderful meeting with Woodmont on what they've been doing and where they plan to go, and certainly, as you had discussed earlier, their tax revenue to the town.
No, it's terrific. So I spoke to the airport director today, and I'm just checking in on and off and everything. He brought up to me a conversation, actually, that he and I had a few months ago about all of the parking disappearing next to the airport area. Said he had not heard from anybody from the town. Did we want to have a conversation? So if we could take a look at that and see if there's, for some reason, we put all the rocks back.
By all means, Mr. Chairman, there is, yes, I will reach out to the airport director. There's a bit more to this story.
Well, I'm sure there is, but let's find out what it is.
By all means.
Yeah, all I know is what I was told. Somebody put the rocks back. So I know there's an erosion issue and there's other things and everything else, but I'm actually surprised with the good weather that some people haven't brought it up to us yet. Do we have anything from, well, let's do the assistant town manager report first. Anything from you, Ms. Assistant Town Manager?
I do not have anything new this evening.
Oh, fantastic. Mr. Town Manager, anything from you?
No, everything I have to say, I've already said.
Outstanding.
Liaison reports?
Any other liaison
I do.
reports? Liaison reports, someone else.
All right, so at the school board meeting held April 18th, which I attended as a town council school board liaison, several important updates was discussed in discussions took place. Firstly, high school band's recent achievements were celebrated. They participated in New York City St. Patrick's Day Parade. They also won the winter percussion reception. Also, several of our state reps were in attendance. They did speak regarding a partnership between the state and district. Representative Dolan spearheaded that conversation, proposed some in-house local trade, or they considered partnering with local trade companies and in-house programs to generate additional revenue for vocational training. Chairman Slater asked the superintendent or directed the superintendent to include that in the topic for future agenda items. They updated and approved the dress code. Also, they had a discussion regarding the HVAC control panel. Chairman Slater expressed the importance of exploring alternative products and opening a bid package for more options to approve this significant, which was $500,000. Consequently, the school board voted to postpone the decision until further information was obtained. Two more topics. They had a discussion regarding the portable classroom, which they approved up at the North School. Superintendent also gave an update on federal grants to ensure the district's compliance on them. Then lastly, they stated that all AEDs have been successfully installed in school buildings. Thank you. That's all I have.
Is that it? I think there was also a note out to the council about AEDs have been installed in all the recreational facilities, the town common now. So, nice job by the fire safety people and to get that done, to get everybody trained. With that, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.